But I would like you to tell Nigerians the ultimatum, the date that you gave on December 16, 2020, expired about 48 hours ago. And now we are still where we are. So what was it about that you had to petition the government and the African Union and the European Union and others? What was it about?
Yes, the 16th of December constitutional force majeure was a joint action by the indigenous nationalities of Nigeria, especially in the south and the middle belt. All of us who are being tormented by this Fulani invasion and Nigeria that has become a union of death for all of us. We've engaged the situation, continuously for, I would say 21 years from the point the 1999 Constitution was introduced 21 years ago. And all through the processes, you saw when Pronaco came, you saw when in 2007 we had to go to court to say we did not make that 1999 Constitution, that our signature was put on a document that sees our assets, that confiscates our sovereignties, that sees our assets, whether it's oil and gas in the Niger Delta, or the port and maritime resources of Yoruba land and Lagos, or the bitumen of Ondo, or the limestone of Benue, that have been confiscated through the instrumentality of that 1999 Constitution by those who now claim they own Nigeria, those who say they are born to rule us, those who are now invading all of us from all quarters, throwing our borders open for Fulani to come from everywhere in Africa to become the new owners, because they are also doing an ethnic cleansing operation. They are killing people in order to take their land. So what we did on the 16th of December in 2020 was to declare a sovereignty dispute, a constitutional force majeure. Constitutional force majeure in the sense of telling the global community. We just notified the global community that we have presented a sovereignty dispute to the Federation of Nigeria through the federal government of Nigeria, that as represented by the federal government of Nigeria that's managing that entity. And that we now insist that our sovereignty that have been confiscated by that constitution we did not make, because it claimed in its preamble that we, the people, solemnly resolved to submit ourselves into the union. It also claimed falsely in the same preamble that we made the constitution for ourselves. Those two false claims, to bring it down to the level of the understanding of our people, operate like a forged title deed by which, an entity that is not in agreement with us, an entity that is in an adversarial situation against us, that is an entity that is laying claim to our lands and our assets and our rights in the name of a Nigeria that died. The Federation of Nigeria died in 1966 when the 5 constitutions that defined that federation collapsed. From that point, the carcass of that defunct Federation of Nigeria was hijacked by a small section of Nigeria, and progressively they imposed a unitary constitution, by which they seized all of the assets of the regions that federated, because Nigeria was a federation of 4 autonomous regions up to that 1966. But from 1966 upwards, it was now a matter of the Union Office hijacking the sovereignties of those 4 regions and imposing one unitary constitution under which the federal government that is supposed to be the union, the business of the 4 regions, the joint business of the 4 regions, got hijacked by one section of the country to become the owner of all of Nigeria, fracturing those regions into states that have now become 36 in number, groveling at the feet of an almighty and omnipotent federal government with a 68-item exclusive list on that constitution that sees all the assets and all the rights and powers of the constituent components of the federating units. And so what we did was in December was to declare an emergency on that situation, and force majeure in the sense of what you do in contract when extraordinary circumstances arise. In declaring that force majeure, we were only giving the federal government of Nigeria a notice of 90 days to examine the grave constitutional grievances being raised by the indigenous nationalities of Nigeria that have found themselves, at the receiving end of an invasion by the Fulani. At a time, there is a Fulani president of Nigeria who threw our borders open. At a time, there's a governor in Bauchi, a Fulani governor of Bauchi state, that told us that the Fulani from all over Africa belong to Nigeria. At a time, we saw the armed forces of Nigeria collaborating openly, colluding openly with the invaders. The government itself told us that those killer herdsmen come from outside Nigeria, that most of them come from Mali and Senegal and all kinds of places. Now, we are in our ancestral spaces, and the constitution they impose on us forbid us from touching guns. These invaders come with guns, and they kill people, and in fact they've renamed some of the communities in southern Kaduna and elsewhere. And the government that is supposed to be looking out for us, the security agencies that are supposed to be defending us from all of this, like General Danjuma did point out in 2018, are in open collusion with these invaders. And El Rufai told us how he went to give them money in 14 different countries. We now see Gumi that knows where these terrorists are. The government knows where Gumi is. And the Gumi knows where the terrorists are. And they want to convince us that they don't know where to find the terrorists. The government and its army and the Navy and Air Force don't know where to find the terrorists. We came out on the 16th of December as the owners of the sovereignties that have been hijacked and confiscated by the defunct Federation of Nigeria forcefully. Okay. To say that we've endured for 21 years, we are not prepared to endure it any further. That 90 days expired on the midnight of March the 16th, and we came out the next day to announce our next steps, because our sovereignty is not dependent on anybody.
Pastor Nnadi.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Nnadi, I had to listen to you, and going by what you have just said, it seems that you're drawing your conclusion from ethnic bias, because you raised so many allegations.
What is the meaning of ethnic bias?
Hold on. I want to ask a question. You raised so many allegations on the northern governors and how some of them made some statements. Those are your opinion, not our opinion. Hold on, barrister. Barrister, hold on. Let me ask a question. I will let you talk. Now, from what you have said now, other people that are watching you will feel that your statements are coming from an ethnic bias angle. But what is the solution now? If we know that the Constitution is not favorable to the people of the South and the Middle Belt. You had a press conference yesterday, a world press conference. Nigerians will want to know what you think will be the answer to some of the questions raised. We've had so many questions that to this effect, and a lot of people have come out to say this constitution needs to be changed. That's not, there's nothing wrong about that. So what is the solution to some of these things some of the allegations you made, some of the things you pointed out? What is the solution going forward?
It is the solution that we wrote up. The Guardian newspaper of today has it on the front page. The Guardian newspaper of yesterday has on the front page the proclamation of December 2020. If anybody is listening to me now who did not read that proclamation, that person should please just go get either online or however they can get at the Guardian newspaper of yesterday, March 17, to see exactly what we said was the problem. And the Guardian newspaper of today, March 18, to see what we say should be done. What we're saying is that we are the Union of Nigeria, the Federation of Nigeria, as defined by the Constitution 1999, is no longer our project. The Nigeria that was our project had long been overtaken and jettisoned, and what we have now is an imposition by people who are bent on exterminating us and taking our land. And when you say I'm talking from ethnic bias,
I said some persons will feel that that's the way you are sounding. People that are listening will feel you are talking from ethnic bias.
There's no ethnic bias anywhere. Nigeria is an aggregation of many nations. The Yoruba are the Yoruba, the Ijaw are the Ijaw, the Ogoni are the Ogoni, all the way to the Fulani up north, the Chief in the middle, the Berom before thereafter. It is the nationalities that submitted their sovereignties in Lancaster House, having discussed the formations in which they will relate. It is those nationalities that own the sovereignties that are, consolidated in the union called Nigeria. But there was an agreement that will be a federation, that will be a secular union, that will be a union of equal partners, and that life will be sacrosanct here under the rule of law. All of those things have been truncated by that section of the country that imposed Sharia, that section of the country that imposed a constitution that took us away from being a federation into a unitary and over-centralized unitary system in which all our assets now belong to them. And they're telling us to our faces that it's not up for negotiation anymore, because they have put our signature on a document of title, the constitution that we did not make. And we're saying now that it is not to go to write another constitution. We must accept that our sovereignty have been confiscated by force. We must accept, those are the demands we made in the December 16th proclamation, that the federal government of Nigeria must now acknowledge the sovereignty dispute, the union dispute we have raised. We are saying that our lands, our assets, our lives, our rights have been confiscated by the instrumentality of a forged constitution, a constitution we did not make, but which authorship is ascribed to us, is imputed to us. And we have endured it for so long. Whether it is the Niger Delta that wants its oil and gas resources back, or the people being killed in the Middle Belt who want to be able to take up guns and defend themselves from whoever comes into their space, or the owners of the ports of Lagos who now watch helplessly when, while Nigeria is cutting away 2 trillion plus from the ports, and nobody from Yoruba land have ever been qualified to manage those ports, the controller generals of customs of Nigeria from beginning to now. And so it is that constitution that has to be jettisoned 100%. We're not talking about any kind of amendment, because those who are talking about a National Assembly, the National Assembly itself is a product of that fraud, in the sense that 36 states and 704 local government areas, which were done by decree, are now in that constitution and are the basis of representation in Abuja. They have become a political majority, permanent political majority, and the owners of the land have become a permanent political minority. And we say that the legislative mandate of the National Assembly does not include constitution making. Constitution making is the exclusive preserve of the constituents as an incident of their sovereignty. And what we have placed on the table is an orderly framework for transiting ourselves from this quagmire we have found ourselves into a new arrangement. And that new arrangement must be in consonance with the self-determination rights of the constituents. Self-determination meaning they have to decide for themselves what they do with their sovereignty. Are they willing to continue in the federation? And if yes, on what terms? Those are the two questions we insist must now be answered. If the federal government of Nigeria is not willing to come to table to be a part of how those answers are provided, NINAS, that is the Nigerian Indigenous and Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, is in a position to carry on with that transition from where we are now, because that transition commenced yesterday. That constitution which we have repudiated is now terminated. The life of that constitution is terminated by the proclamation of December 16, 2020. Anybody who does not understand that is likely to learn it the hard way, because you cannot by a forged instrument keep me in the face of danger where my life is now to be given up. My assets have been taken by that same instrument. The oil and gas assets, all these assets, economic assets I've talked about, it is the exclusive list of the 1999 Constitution that sees all those assets, including the power to even work some of those assets. I have coal in Enugu. I cannot generate electricity because somebody put electricity generation and transmission on that exclusive list. We're talking about refineries now and the new prices we may have to pay for crude, for petroleum. Nigeria produces 3 million barrels of crude oil every day and sells. Just the matter of processing. The only reason we are not having petroleum products from the crude oil we have is that refineries are on that exclusive list. You lock down that capacity that is abundantly available. I was in the oil industry, so I can tell you, I had your introductory where you were reviewing what has happened and people talking about Shell stealing oil. I was in the oil industry. It is because Nigeria is a criminal enterprise. Nigeria was designed in 1914 as a British offshore criminal enterprise, and all the constitutions that have been imposed on us from beginning to now are designed to service that criminal enterprise. That is why Shell can be dictating the terms of how it, prospects and takes away the oil, accounting only as it deems fit to the NNPC.
Okay.
If Nigeria was being managed by the owners of Nigeria, all such will not happen.
All right.
And so we've come to where we say we must now engage these matters. If we're not engaging it, if the federal government, if that illicit federal government is not willing to come bring itself to the table, the owners of Nigeria, especially in the south and the middle belt, who have now organized themselves in a formation of 3 blocks, the Yoruba being one block, the eastern half of southern Nigeria being another block, that is south, south, and southeast, and the middle belt being another block. All of us are under the invasion of this murderous Fulani
but Nnadi, if you're pulling down a constitution, don't you think it has implication? How can a country stand for 1 minute without a constitution? Would that not amount to, well, I don't know, but you're a lawyer. How can the country stand without a constitution? So how do you intend to do that?
Well, the matter is straightforward. If only our people will go and look at what we have in black and white before them. It's all in those Guardian newspapers I talked about and on their website, on our own website, www.freedomfromnigeria.com. Now, we are not anarchists. And so, going back to the 5 points of demand, because we actually have a demand number 4, a transitioning process. We insist that the federal government, so let me just take them in series. The first demand is that the federal government of Nigeria must now acknowledge the sovereignty dispute so that the conversation can begin under the roof. Otherwise, it will be happening on the streets. Like we have seen across the land, people resorting to self-help on account of these constitutional grievances from across board in the land. That's number 1. Number 2, that the federal government of Nigeria must expressly and formally commit to the decommissioning of that fraudulent constitution of 99. Number 3, that the federal government of Nigeria must expressly formally commit to the suspension of any further national elections under that constitution so that we can all go and begin to solve this problem now. I get ashamed of some of our people at a time. The other people are running helter-skelter. Yoruba gathered in Ibadan yesterday, telling the whole world that they are only interested in salvaging themselves from the union of death Nigeria has become. Telling the whole world that the elections will not solve the problem. At the time everybody is trying to extricate themselves, people are still discussing another round of election under this constitution that is the source of misery and the source of death. Therefore, the demand number 3 is that the federal government of Nigeria must commit expressly to the suspension of further national elections under this constitution so that we can go to work out to rework the basis of Nigeria, agree on the terms, agree to be in the union, and on the terms of being in that union. Number 4 of the demands is that a transitioning process in which the existing governance structures are retained for the period of that transition, while the processes that will lead to fresh protocols are being undertaken, just like South Africa did with the apartheid constitution in 1997. If anybody is crazy enough to think that we'll continue to obey, all of what flows from that constitution when they drag us to election that we are saying should not happen, then such a person should be getting ready to contend with the people who have been killed, with the people whose future have been ruined, the people whose assets have been detained for so long. The last one is that the modalities for getting into that transition, by the way, it's a 2-stage process that will happen in course of arriving at fresh protocols. Those 2 stages will be that the units that will federate, those who want to continue in the union, will have to recommit to the union by way of referendums in the regions. The collapse of the 1999 constitution, which has already happened, we have withdrawn our toleration. We have withdrawn that contrived authorization, our signature that was put on the document through that preamble that say we the people enacted, we the people agreed to, we the people submitted to, we the people enacted. What we have done in this intervention is to formally pull back that signature. They were not anarchists. Therefore, we say we are prepared to tolerate existing governance structures for the period of the discussion. That offer of transition is an accommodation, an extraordinary accommodation that is being extended to people who are committing treason against us. Because in holding on to that constitution that we did not make, we've gone to courts in 2007 to say we didn't make it. We've gone to solemn assemblies in Port Harcourt, in Ibadan, in Makurdi, to tell the whole world that we are being kidnapped in our ancestral homes by people who are now killing us in order to replace us with their own stock that are poured in from all over Africa. And we say that on account of that, it must be a question of those who want to continue to recommit to the union. In the collapse of that, the demise of the 1999 constitution, which is the current situation, is that there's no union. I'm sure you had Ayo Adebanjo on Arise TV the other day telling us that the situation we have now is that we have no union because the constitution that brought us together is in distress, is being rejected, is being repudiated, and it is within the exclusive rights of the owners of the sovereignty to decide what they do with their sovereignty. It does not depend on anybody in Abuja agreeing with them. They can carry all the guns they are carrying around thinking that that is where our sovereignty has gone, or the ones in the National Assembly who are now telling us that they become the owners of our sovereignty. I pray they do not learn in the hard way. Our sovereignty is not with them, it is with us. We have put a plan on the table by which we can go to a meeting. We are not asking them to leave government house right away. We are saying remain so that we can go to have that discussion.
Okay, if we don't
go to that discussion, people are going towards self-help, and it might become anarchy sooner than we can imagine.
Barrister Nnadi, you have have said the existing governance structure will remain.
Yes.
In this case, does it have to do with the National Assembly members as well as the governors? What happens if you ask the governors to hold on to their states and remain, and elections will not hold? What will happen to the National Assembly and other arms of government? No,
existing governance structures is across board.
Okay.
From presidency to National Assembly to the governors up to council area. We're saying on a transitional basis. That's why in the number 4 of our demand, we said that the nationalities will have to work out with the government, federal government of today, the modalities for how all of that will be. What is it they will be doing? What is it they will not be doing? in that period of transition. The law and order will have to be maintained. Salaries of civil servants will have to be, paid, and all the kinds of things that.
Then that takes me to the next question. Law and order, and that means you still be making use of that constitution that you said you need to drop.
South Africa came through. Let us not complicate this matter. South Africa had exactly the same problem we have now. The Boers in South Africa came from outside and seized the land and became the owners of South Africa to the exclusion of the black owners. It was introduced in 1910, apartheid constitution. Everything we complain about in Nigeria now for what the Fulani are doing is what the blacks in South Africa went through, but it was apartheid constitution. They began to fight it to the point where the government and the country could not function anymore. And Frederick de Klerk in 1990 had the presence of mind to acknowledge, to admit that this apartheid constitution could not carry the country any further. And he made an announcement that they were going to go to a meeting to discuss the terms of the unions. Why is it impossible for those who sit in Abuja to listen to the overwhelming, the cries and demands of people who have been asking for restructuring, who have been asking for resource control, who have been asking for all kinds? Everybody agrees that this constitution is not working. This union is not working. From all the indices of human, index of human development, where Nigeria, as big as it is, as potentially, successful as it is, has been at the bottom of every good index. And we are leading from the back. We are the poverty capital of the world. We have now become number 2 in terms of rate of unemployment across the world. We have become the example of everything evil. We have become the study for failed state. Why can't we see that if it is coming from this constitution, and we all agree that it's coming from this constitution, even the National Assembly said that the security situation in Nigeria is on account of the over-centralized security arrangement imposed by that constitution.
All right,
what are you going to do about it if you don't want to go and turn off the tap? The refineries are not working because refineries are on that exclusive list.
Nnadi,
have been, yes.
Let's just sorry.
People need to understand. People need to understand that it has become a question of life and death for those who are complaining, because people are being killed, and the only reason they can't defend themselves, they were being told that the constitution forbid them from touching guns. They also been told that the constitution allowed the Fulani to get into all the nooks and crannies. You had the governor, the same governor, reckless governor of Bauchi.
Nnadi, let's quickly look at our social media. We have reactions. Yes. We need to take some of this reaction. Nigerians are watching. Like I said earlier, yes, for you to be part of this discussion, all you need to do is to follow us on our official Twitter handle at democracy2day, or you can follow me on my handle at Ijeoma Osamor. Let's look at some of the messages we have there. Let me just start with the one that came from, I have this one. It says, Casey's, is it Casey or Casey's? Says, how effective can this be and how fast can we achieve this? That's a question to you. And he went further to say, how long can this process take? That was the question I wanted to ask. Then Egwa Odido is tweeting. He said, what the barrister is saying is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Our lands have been taken over by foreigners who are highly protected by especially this government. The merchants of death are here for an agenda, and they must be halted by any means. Not any means anyway, by means that will be favorable to the people of Nigeria. He said they must be halted. Then Chigozie McDonald is tweeting. He said, apt views from Mr. Nnadi. I expected that by now, federal government must have ensured that all our major refineries are working optimally. Liberalizing the oil sector is another major concern. We should have more than 60 modular refineries working in Nigeria. So we're still getting more. But you know, just like this man is saying here, you need to look at the time frame. All this you have mentioned, that there will be no further election in Nigeria, existing governance structures retained. Within which period? Are you saying within that 30 days that your statement said, or are you looking at between now and 2023? We
have elections happened in 2019, and they say they have 4 years. We're not quarreling with that. What we're saying is that the condition for letting them remain in government, because people are choking to the point where many are feeling like going to charge them out of the place. If you allow those young people that came out in the NSAS protest, you think they all died or they've all run away overseas? No. If they continue to push them, like I saw them trying to increase the price of fuel the other day, they've increased the price of electricity, the electricity tariff by 300%. They are just choking them and choking them all the more. We're saying that in the period left of those 4 years, we can go now. We don't need more than 6 months. If it gets to 1 year, it's just because we're taking it slow to sort out this matter. We are prepared. We are the only ones holding back everybody else to say, let us do it in an orderly form. Those signatories you saw are statesmen. They are not politicians. They are statesmen who have stepped forward to save this union from falling over the brink. And if anybody will not listen now, the matter will soon get to the street. The 90 days was not for it to be finished. We only say formal commitment. Go back to the wordings of that demand. We said the federal government will have to make an announcement.
And if the federal government, because somebody's already asking that question, James O. Emmanuel is saying, what next if the government refuses to come to the round table?
Yes,
if they refuse to come to the round table.
The 90 days we gave, for that purpose, during which no escalation, nobody, we prevailed on all the alliance partners. Let nobody do anything that will escalate the matter. Let us allow the 90 days to run all through. And we kept reminding them in public events like this to say, we have this 90 days. That 90 days is past, they've not come. And so yesterday, the press conference of the World Press Conference of yesterday, March 17, was to tell the global community that we have waited for 90 days and the federal government did not come. The action we said we were going to take in that proclamation is said, because we said we will have to reconsider, that we will have to reconsider our allegiance to that constitution.
All right.
The paragraph before the demand and the mechanism by which that reconsideration is to be executed is entirely up to us.